Hey, what's up, all you frog bastards? It's finally the weekend for me. Second week working 2 jobs, killing myself to live, as Black Sabbath would say. But been busy, which means all this stuff is going to be old news. It won't be fake news, but it'll be hashtag old news. But I don't think it's fair that some of us don't get to cover the cool stuff because we're working, but you'll have that when you're an ultra-capitalist slave to the grind, so. But, of course, I'm going to go in on this Ben Shapiro video. Not like, oh, I hate Ben Shapiro. But the thing is with Ben Shapiro, he was one of those people that I really didn't like during the campaign because he was one of those that would be fine with losing just so he could complain and be like, well, he's the type of person that would, especially in the political sense, if somebody was coming in to kill all of us in a room, he would be against tripping someone. He'd be against tripping the gunman because it would be, you know, that would be a dirty move. What a blindsided move. We don't play by those rules. And a lot of stuff in the culture war now, it's like being, no, none of that shit. And so, I'm glad. There we go. I was going to say, I'm glad that was on. Let's go through with this, see if I can remember all the stuff I want to say about it. Well, this is Andrew Neil. This is someone from BBC who is a British commentator, but decently conservative in Britain. Is like, to me, it's like a lefty, like a soft lefty here. So I get it, but I'm no fan of Ben, but I'm sure this is gonna, you know, this is the fucking BBC. This is like CNN of over there across the pond. So, but by any means, let's not think that the BBC's any good. All right, let's look at this interview everybody was talking about.
Ben Shapiro, you're followed by millions of people online and on social media. You're one of the biggest names in American conservatism. What is it you think you're tapping into?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things. One, there is actually a hunger for different ideas. The monolithic nature of the United States media is pretty evident in terms of its politics. People tend to agree on essentially the liberal point of view and increasingly a radical leftist point of view in the media. And obviously, I speak in response to that. At the same time, I try to provide an honest take on the issues of the day, and that means that I am not beholden to the Republican Party, for example. It means that I am going to speak out when...
Like what, I'm going to stop this, and this is not criticizing, this is just thinking of the many different ways he's said things over the years, because in 2017 I tried to give him a chance like I would say a Rogan. I remember when Rogan came out, and I thought, UFC, bitch, what are you doing? Just go back to Fear Factory, you know? And then I sat there and I said, after the Jones, the 9/11, you know, literally the Joe Rogan 911 episode that he had just for Alex Jones to have that number, I said, you know what, I'll watch him some. And I was watching some stuff that I didn't even like people that aren't interesting to me. I thought I'd give him a chance. And he just kept being a bitch, Joe Rogan. There's a difference between someone who's playing devil's advocate and then someone who's sucking the devil's dick, you know what I mean? But he's a professional fence sitter, and disingenuously so. Like he just goes with what the. Sometimes he'll have like a Adam Conover on, and he's like, "Hey, dummy, this trans stuff is not as good as you think it is." But I mean, it's 2019. It's not really a big deal for you to argue in the favor of natural things that happen naturally. So I can't really give Rogan any props for that, and the whole, well, I like to hunt and eat all these different elk and this type of stuff, so he understands some stuff with guns, free speech, but it's just, I can't handle lukewarm people, especially when I had to fight to give him a chance in the first place. Same with Ben Shapiro. I said, you know what, President Trump won. Ben, you know, got blown the fuck out. I'll give him a little bit, you know, we're conservatives, we're technically, I'm not now, but I'll give him a chance. Let me unbutton my shirt so I can look cool like Ben. But he would rather lose, in my opinion, on a lot of things. But I said I'll give him a chance, and I watched this stuff and was watching some of Clavin, watched Knowles maybe once or twice. It's something about younger people my age. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just when I hear them, it's like I'm talking to them or people my age already, and so you just don't think about it. You only look towards people who are above you a little bit in age for some reason. Clavin's the only one that was reasonable because he said he's the type that could say, you know what, I'm not electing a president to be priest. And yeah, Ben, well, I could never vote for Trump because of something about my own morals. It's like, Ben, you said that from the beginning. I know I said that from the beginning. Blah, 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 blah. He probably starts out every show to this day still that, well, President Trump, he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and this is great for Jews, and I'm a Jew, and so it affects me, and it makes me, it's actually a big win for me, and this is exclusively a win for my people. But let's never forget that President Trump is not really a great guy, guys. Let's not get it twisted, guys. I'm getting everything I want. He's more conservative, putting conservative judges on Supreme Court benches. But remember when I said that he could corrupt it all? He's still a bad guy. I don't know, just something about him is just an asshole. And you'll see in this episode that he's good at beating the shit out of college kids ideologically, and that's needed and stuff. But it's like, oh, Ben Shapiro destroys this, destroys that, and it's built up his ego, and especially since he's like a Vox Day had done it back in the day, the Chicken Hawk Clucks and the littlest Chicken Hawk. He's wanting to be neocon on a lot of issues, and when it comes to walking the walk, he's one of those people that, as a conservative, wants to talk about how bad abortion is, and Ben Shapiro destroys abortion, video after video, and lays it out. And then he's also the type of person to be the contrarian, even when we're winning. Is what I'm trying to get to where Alabama will pass this stuff recently that's come out, about the abortion in Georgia and things like that, which is a response to New York and places like Northam and Virginia and places like California, where you're paying for illegal abortions, stuff like that. So it's really a contrarian reaction to it. So leftists have themselves to blame. But he's the type to be on Twitter and go, and now I'm just as much pro-life and anti-abortion as the next guy, but this is out of hand, guys. It's like, Ben, stop trying to be that reasonable conservative to a liberal. Even, I mean, I know I shit on liberals, but, of course a leftist, but even a liberal, there's now in the diagram of things, there's no such thing as a sensible conservative. It's like, I don't mean physically, but it's like going into war in a negotiation. It's dumb. I think it was Maxine Waters that says, when we go into a meeting, when we want to get what we want, we go in and we shut up and then let everybody else think. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you talking about? You have to let yourself be known. You have to let people know what you're about. You have to fight for different things. And Ben just fights against the current a lot of times just to be that, I don't want to be. Everybody's having macaroni and cheese. I want rice. It's like, Ben.
Whenever I think that a principle is being violated, just no matter who is doing the violation.
You worked for the right-wing Breitbart website, but you left over its support for Donald Trump. And I think you said you'd never vote for Mr. Trump. Why is that?
Well, in 2015, 2016, the Breitbart made a hard turn in favor of one particular candidate, and that's their prerogative. Lots of publications have an editorial point of view, and Breitbart was one of those. The reason that I left Breitbart specifically was because of an incident in which a Breitbart reporter, a female reporter, was grabbed on the arm by Corey Lewandowski, then the campaign manager for President Trump, and was bruised on the arm, and then Corey Lewandowski proceeded to lie about it, and Breitbart proceeded to throw its own reporter under the bus, suggest that she was lying or making this up. And at that point, I determined that I could no longer work for a publication that wasn't even willing to stand up for its own reporters, and instead would throw those reporters under the bus in favor of a candidate that it sought to back.
Haven't you lost your battle?
It's just everybody. If you haven't seen it by now, the Michelle Fields, he does say, "Whoa, whoa, don't go back there." To her, and let me see what. What's funny is I just want to see it. I don't even have to do this for you punks. Jeez, it's been a long week, apparently. I want to see the clip. Bruises. Looks like a harpy. Here. Sympathetic. She wasn't ripped off her feet or anything. Like, she never even lost balance. And this is all Mashable. This is not like somebody that's making stuff up. And if somebody's trying to get too close to a candidate, that's your job to keep them away. I hate this shit about the press where they think they can. And this is Breitbart even, and Ben's one of those types of people. Well, we got to go where the truth is. We've got to, speak truth to power and blah, 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 blah. As far as the never touching, that's not my angle. I'm talking shit to her. He bruised me. It's like when someone says, you can sit down your ass too hard and get bruised. And all my women, this and that. I get it. But it's like that kid who said, wow, you grabbed my arm and it hurt really bad on Dr. Phil. That's what it comes across as with me.
For the Republican Party, though, isn't the Republican Party now the party of Trump?
Yes.
No, I think that the Republican Party is always the party of whomever is the president, technically speaking. But in terms of who are the sort of the thought leaders inside the conservative movement, who are the people who
Republican
are
and conservatives,
driving a
two
lot
different
of the
things.
discussion inside the conservative movement, I don't think that's correct at all. I think that most Republicans see President Trump as a vehicle for their policy preferences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with all of his personal foibles or the way that he behaves or the things that he says. And I think a lot of Republicans respond in anger to the media attacking President Trump mainly out of a reactionary and half-appropriate upset that the media seem to have a double standard when it comes to covering certain politicians.
Half appropriate.
I'm interested that
See,
you
he's
think
got to
there's
get a
thought
stab in there.
inside
I don't know if it's spite from being wrong, because he was everything was given to him and everything's so right and blah blah blah, and you're so smart being and all, you wreck another college person. And so he's sitting there thinking, Trump will never be president, and he's like wanting to will it into existence. And not only that, but it's like come on guys, you haven't done this like I have. I spent my life doing things like this. And he's wrong, and I don't know if he can't get over it or what it is.
The Republican Party, haven't the Conservatives run out of the Republican Party?
That he says, and I think a lot of Republicans respond in anger to the media attacking President Trump mainly out of a reactionary and half-appropriate
So what he's saying is it's wrong to stick
that the
together.
media seem to have a double standard when it comes to covering certain politicians.
I'm interested that you think
is.
there's a thought movement inside the Republican Party. Haven't the Conservatives run out of ideas in America? All the new policies, the Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, the Green New Deal, they're all coming from the left.
And I would say no, that before he answers, I would say no, because it seems to be a party that's going for free speech now more than any. And it's, if you have to do between the duopoly of the two, it's the Republicans. They seem less like, they're not the ones targeting people. They're not the ones saying get out in people's faces, dog whistling violence. They're actually the party of life when you look at it. How hard the Democrats are just revolted by, saying, hey, abortion is murder. You sit there and talk to Christians about homosexual relationships can be marriage. You weren't worried about definitions to people then. And the thing is, marriage is a word owned by Christianity. It's a covenant. When it comes to the word, when it comes to the other word, it's not a set thing like it is in Christianity, where it's strictly for that word, like murder with abortion. People call it murder, and it's not like murder is a specific word to a specific religion or anything. That goes for all cultures or whatever. They know what murder is, and you would consider it murder. So there's no reason to play that. Well, that's not, you can't say that. People can have that opinion, and I have that opinion. But to say, well, you're just twisting it, you're making it sound worse than it is. I mean, how often do you ever hear me, when I get bitched at, say, well, you're saying kids in cages and I'm a Nazi? First of all, I'll have you know that I'm not racist in any way, and I just think we should all get along. I don't need to fight the term Nazi because I know it's stupid. So if you really don't have a problem with abortion, then why does the word murder trigger you? Because some people think that separating kids from their the grown-ups at the border to make sure who's with who is fascist. If I don't think it's fascist, then I'm just going to say, yeah, whatever.
They're popular.
Well, frankly, I'm confused by the idea that any of those are particularly new ideas. I mean, most of those ideas have been around since Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the very earliest.
That's
Or
true.
at the very latest, rather. Some of them go all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. But the idea that new ideas are absent in the Republican Party is obviously untrue. We have a very strong debate that goes on inside sort of the conservative halls of intelligentsia about what is the appropriate action to take with regard to the medical
If I was
system.
Ben, I would have said we're rebranding.
Should global warming be considered a real threat, or should global warming be considered something that technology will solve?
Come on,
and if so,
Ben.
what are the best aspects
He tries to
of solving
concede
that?
too
There's a
much.
rich intellectual debate on the right about nationalism versus patriotism, for example, or populism versus free marketeerism. That debate is happening on the right to sort of...
Like, he probably knows the answer and someone else probably does, but to me, nationalism and patriotism, like, they're one and the same when you look at it. Like, we're in a culture where we're not really in a political war, and not to just dilute it down, but the whole nationalism versus patriotism, and he'll say stuff when it's like, well, this versus that. It's like, if he might as well just say it's either democracy or mob rule. Ben, they're the same. This is, the patriotism gets us nationalism. The democracy gets us mob rule. So I think it's dumb. That's a petty squabble, but it's something to do with just, are they not the same, Ben?
Suggest that the right in America is bereft of ideas, but the left is full of ideas. Number one, not all ideas are good ideas. I mean, AOC is pretty good evidence of that. I'm a big fan of some old ideas myself that I think are pretty good. But
just thinking, the person I thought of who mocked him the most about it on Instagram would be Owen Benjamin. And I noticed this too. I thought, damn, he's right. He said, Ben is in love with AOC. And it's like, I thought about it, and I thought, not again, like, Owen, you're wrong, Owen. I was thinking, yeah, but he's just criticizing. Everybody's got to criticize her. It's just, come on. And it's not like, she's an easy target, so don't do it because it just looks like we're bullying her. Who cares? She makes an ass of herself. The thing is, I've noticed that I just naturally don't care about her, or even Omar or Talib, or other people like that. And so, to be honest, he called it right. You actually have to be focused on someone to say her as much as he does, because I keep up with politics and I don't even think about her until she comes up. I'm just like, there's donkey teeth, so she said something stupid. Global warming, the world's gonna end in 12 years. Just kidding, it was a troll, guys, don't be idiots. Watch me eat salad out on my floor and stick my hand in a disposal, because I've never seen one. I've seen one of those and I'm a hick. We don't have those in the sticks in our sinks for the most part. And even I've seen one. And she's lived in the city all of her life. She's a Bronx girl. The Bronx. And she's never seen something that is like stereotypically in a city setting or metropolitan area. I mean, if you're in San Francisco, it's a metropolitan area, but, we'll get to the poop maps one day. It's old news, but it's nuts. It's getting worse. So he really is infatuated with her, and I think it has to do with the Steven Crowder approach too. And apparently I heard he walked off of Steven Crowder too. I don't know if that's a troll or what in the chat, because I was watching stuff like Ralph Retort and Hard Bastard, so you never know if we're just shitting with each other. But him and Crowder, their bread and butter is fuck socialism, this and that, and being complete capitalist, hardcore. And I'm a capitalist, but if that's your bag, it's the money thing, you need to be pushing the moral thing. It's just funny to me. And those two, it's kind of like they're appealing to the younger people but through just shock humor, like, "Oh, AOC fucking owned." She doesn't know anything about economics. See, this is someone that just came out of college, and
beyond that,
blah, blah, blah,
I think
blah,
that it is
like, congratulations,
intellectual.
Ben. Never heard that
intellectual
before.
sneering of the highest order to suggest that only the left has new and decent ideas.
Some of the
He's butthurt.
ideas
I would have
that
just
are
said,
popular in
"No,
your
we're good."
side of
He added
politics
the sneering.
would seem to take us back to the dark ages. Georgia, new
All
abortion.
right, here's the main
Left
thing I
has
thought.
new and decent
Watch how he
ideas.
handles this.
Some of the ideas that are popular in your side of politics would seem to take us back to the dark ages. Georgia, new
Dark ages abortion. He's
laws,
smart.
which you are much in favor of, that a woman who miscarries could get 30 years. A Georgian woman who travels to another state for an abortion procedure.
See, and I'll be fair to this Andrew Neil guy. He's being disingenuous as shit. He said a woman who miscarries could get 30 or whatever years he said, right? A miscarriage is an accident. It's like people that are pulling out and they've got the green light, and then someone comes through and plows them and they die in the wreck. Not the person who's going green, but the person who was running the red light. They die. That's involuntary manslaughter, in a sense. Or even if it's by accident and you swerve off the road and hit somebody hydroplaning. If you get set up in a situation where it's involuntary manslaughter, it's not punishable. It's not like you did it on purpose.
Procedure.
And so, with the whole bullshit with the miscarriage thing he's trying to pull here, this Andrew Neil, no one's saying if you were, say you happen to fall down the stairs, God forbid a pregnant woman or anybody is listening as a pregnant woman, God forbid something were to happen to, these women. A woman having a health issue, or a real one, not a bullshit they try to say, or fail or something happened to the baby, lack of oxygen. He's trying to say that even natural accidents like that, miscarriage-wise, that can happen, is punishable in prison. Blow me, dude. We know damn well what we're talking about. It's people that purposely kill their children. So I will give it. It's not that it's a point for one or the other, but I'll give it to Ben that's being shitty. That's a shitty frame.
Which you are much in favor of.
I am too.
That a woman who miscarries could get 30 years. A Georgian woman who travels to another state for an abortion procedure could get 10 years. These are extreme hard policies.
Well, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
I'll wait till he gets to it, because I think he gets to the word.
Okay, so you're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagray barbaric and suggesting only one side of the political aisle.
Look, he's getting hung up on barbaric.
So I
Ready?
point out that
I know that
I said it's he's Jewish, so I said he's playing semantics. But watch, he's getting dare I say triggered by a word. Watch, and I get it. It was a shitty slight, but it's like when someone you're arguing on the Xbox or even on the court or anything, and someone says, "Yeah, nice shot, faggot." You're not supposed to go, "I'm not gay, dude," for the next 3 quarters, dude. Take it back. I'm not gay. You're supposed to go fuck off, bitch. And I think Ben's getting hung up on this. How dare you call me barbaric? He's tripping. And I wanted to bring him up again. And there's other people that have said this. And I'm not like my Muslims, but he's called other people barbaric. And so it's dangerous. Not dangerous, but it's not smart for him to do that. Because this guy's well learned on Ben, and it seems like he was more so than Ben was on him. And Ben even says, "I don't know who you are," like a shithead that he is, but.
Please be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro, I know that broadcasting in America is now so polarized that on one program you only have the left, and another one you just have the right. My job is to question those who have strong views and put an alternative to them. If you were an anti-abortion person, I would be putting pro-abortion questions to you, but you are
really. Would you call the pro-choice position?
So why don't you just answer my question,
sir? I'm happy to answer your question.
Sure.
Please answer this one.
Like
would you suggest that a late-term abortion is brutal?
I'm not taking a view on this issue. I'm asking you the question.
See, that wasn't. See, he's trying to be smart, because he's so used to the college stuff, and this isn't wrong, but in the college sense, you can ask a kid so what would you think? Oh, blah, 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 right? And they have to answer because it's a forum. This isn't like that. Whether you think this guy's being biased or not, he literally can fall back on the, well, I'm just asking questions, and he is.
Sir, you just suggested
So this is not going to work.
position is inherently brutal and terrible, so I'm asking you, as an objective journalist, would you ask the same question to a pro-choice advocate by...
See, watch. See, I'll say this before I get to where I might have thought that I'll be at, to bring this up just in case I forget it. But the way I would have framed this is, with Ben, the reason he messed up is he got hung up on the word barbaric. And I'm not some charisma coach or anything like that like people do, but the way you carry yourself and stuff. But as far as I could tell, I would have done this. If he says something about barbaric, and you'll see later that Ben can't let go of the word barbaric, right? And he's losing the framing, and you definitely lose the framing in that sense, because it's like with Trump, and that's the reason he didn't see Trump coming. That's why he couldn't get over Trump, and Trump trolled him or blew Ben the fuck out, is because Ben thinks that he can just say, he gets caught up in the framing. And like all Trump has to say is one thing with Ben, or like with this barbaric, and he's real vindictive, whether you think it's justified or not, and he lets them know that it gets to him. What's the first thing people do whenever they make fun of you or have a nickname for you or describe something that you do that they think's quirky or weird, and they figure out it gets to you? That's your new nickname. If you're like little Ben Shapiro, well, I think it's just real beneath you to call him in short. This is all about brains and whatever. And you're like, that's it. Got him mad. And so you start hitting him with, more short jokes. That's the way the world is. And so it's going to be a tale later on. You'll see this when he keeps bringing it up. What I would have said is, when Andrew Neil says, these are extreme positions. Don't you think it's a bit barbaric to put a woman into prison right over abortion? And I would say a lot of people would call my side barbaric due to the punishment. But to me, it's a punishment of a person who is of legal age and can handle going to prison or jail or whatever it would be, even if it was just a fine, right? When it comes to the baby who hasn't committed a crime that we've already established in the world, that's different. That's unfair punishment. That's death over going to jail. So it's not as barbaric as killing. And second of all, I would say that it's more barbaric on our side's defense. It's more barbaric looking to have someone like Grant Northam in Virginia, who started this whole kerfuffle in January of 2019, this year. It's been less than 4 months. Said we keep the babies alive, we keep them comfortable when we deliver them, and then a decision is made about what we will do between the physician, healthcare provider, and the woman. They never mention a man and all this stuff, but I would say I think it's pretty barbaric to talk about aborting a baby that's laying out on the operating table already, or the delivery table. I would say to you, Mr. Neal, that it's more fitting of a term barbaric. It's more fitting to actually the pro-abortion sense. But he's not going to do that.
Calling their position brutal and
What I'm
horrible.
asking you is that why is it that a bill banning abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages? What's your answer?
See, I think Dark Ages is
My
shitty.
answer is something called science.
I think Dark Ages is shitty too, but not like offensive-wise to me. My thing is whether he thinks he's being objective in the sense that he's saying what he thinks a leftist or a radical leftist would even say. Ben should be ready for questions like this. Maybe he's just mad because, see, the thing with Ben is that he still thinks that the media matters, and I'm not shitting on it like, oh, nothing matters, but he thinks that he's getting caught up in the fact that he should treat Andrew Neal like he would a college person. I know you can't, but at least try, that their temperament is coming from the, I'm attacking your ideology, not the, he's had too many of these, let's sit down and have a discussion about a conversation about a debate with Rubin and Peterson and Weinstein and all these people. This is like, wow, it's just a circle jerk, and they never really get around to anything. I don't even watch them. It's a bunch of milquetoast left and milquetoast right and classic whatever liberal. So he said there's a lot of discussion, but there's nothing new really being discussed. And so it fails him when he comes up to things like this, to where he thinks, you're supposed to be a journalist. You're from the BBC. Someone like me would say BBC. broadcasting bull crap. You know what I mean? Ben's still like, well, you should be objective. In this world that we're in, if he's still surprised that people aren't objective as journalists, even having biases way before all this, then he's being disingenuous. One of those people that won't let it go.
Exists at conception. It ought to be protected.
That's
now,
true.
back to my
Science.
question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be
See,
an
that's fucked
objective
up. He's
down
going
the
back
middle
to his
network.
personal
It obviously
squabble.
is not. It never has been. And you, as a journalist, are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the Dark Ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left?
See, he looks
so hard for you? Why
sympathetic.
can't you just be honest?
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is,
He's
you wouldn't have
technically
said it.
right-wing in
So let's move
England.
on. Would you vote
I
for
think
Mr.
it's pretty evident
Trump?
from your
Would
own
you
questions
vote for
exactly what you
Mr.
are, sir.
Trump? Would you vote for Mr. Trump in 2020?
See, that's why you got to be careful with even the left and the right. I know I say all this stuff but I usually use it to talk about myself or the way people would quote unquote perceive these people. But a lot of people like me would say it's just right versus wrong, good versus evil, morality versus immorality. Create things that create and multiply and things that destroy. But he's like, well, you're on the left, and now he just looks really dumb. He didn't say, well, maybe you're more of a classically liberal or socially liberal person than me. Maybe he could have got away with that, but to completely call somebody left is funny. And so now he looks even worse because he's already got the being mad over
I'd
the
certainly
word.
consider voting for Mr. Trump in 2020, just like I'd consider voting for anybody else in 2020.
But didn't you once say that you'd never vote for him?
Got him.
I said that I wouldn't vote for him in 2016.
And I get like why this is kind of lame to people, and if they're Ben Shapiro fans, fine. Because the other dude, I think this Andrew guy, he doesn't really give a shit about Ben. He's just trying to talk shit about him. But that being said, Ben is an asshole when it came to this Trump stuff. He's like, he's going to lose, and you guys are going to be crawling back to me, more or less. And whenever he loses, I guess we'll just have to pick up from the ashes of what used to be the Republican Party and all the people who weren't here before me, who ruined it. You're just gonna have to get in line. And so I take joy in this, not like people suffering, but I think he's got getting his comeuppance with squabbles like this here because he was so pompous about I'll never vote Trump. He's in the fucking never Trumper thing. Then after a while, it was like never Trumper was never really a thing. People gave us that name. It's like, Ben, you were saying anyone but Trump. Like, what could that be? Oh, we're not the murder club. And I'm not equating him to a murderer, but I'm playing semantics. We're not the murder club. We're the taking life club. Come on, Ben. I'm not voting for Trump or anyone but Trump. Never Trump. Synonymous, dude. Just own it. It's not that I was never Trump. I was for candidates that I thought were qualified. Yeah, but you said Trump could never be a qualified candidate, so by default of his own reasoning there, he'd still be never Trumper.
And then I wrote a column for National Review explaining the conditions under which I might change my mind.
You're a culture war warrior, isn't he largely on your side? You wrote once it was unlikely he'd appoint conservative
push him
judges
away, 'cause
to the Supreme Court. He has.
He don't want to
Right.
be proven wrong.
So you were wrong.
I like many of President Trump's policies, even if I
wrong.
still have serious reservations about
He won't
his
even say, I'm
personality and
surprised. Ben Shapiro could get some sympathy and look sympathetic. He'd say, you know what, yeah, I guess I was wrong, in the sense that it wasn't life or death, like wrong. And I wasn't going to live or die on my, he's going to or not. But I'm surprised. He could even like backhand Trump kind of and go, well, Trump is still more socially liberal than I'd like for him to be, and I'm actually surprised. I thought he was incompetent, I thought whatever, but even if he wanted to say it wasn't Trump, like the leftist on the right that he is, it's almost like the reactionary. He could just say, well, I don't think it's Trump. I think he's just got good people whispering in his ear, but things are going in my way. He can't even say things are going in my way or our way. So is he not a conservative as a part? He don't see himself as part of the movement? Or can he just not give Trump credit because he's already lived and died on Never Trump Hill?
Think there's a Democrat that could beat him in 2020?
Sure, I think there are several Democrats who could be.
And real quick, this is the type of guy that could say about Obama, well, there's a lot of things I don't like about Obama, but at least with Obama, he didn't go to war with Syria. And I don't know, maybe because he likes to act like he's anti-war, but Syria has to do with Israel, so he might disagree with that, so I may be wrong, but you know what I mean. He's the type that will go and compliment someone who opposes him completely ideologically, just so he can, like, if they're kind of posh, so he can be like, see, I get along with other people who actually know how to carry themselves. It doesn't matter what party they're in. It's like Penn. No one cares about grandstanding. You think the left cares if you like them because, oh, nice attitude.
Beat him in 2020.
Who would have the best chance?
I think that Joe Biden is likeliest to beat him, considering that he has significant appeal in a lot of the Rust Belt, in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the places that President Trump needs to win to retain the presidency. And Joe Biden also has a long history in politics, which means that the American people already have sort of a preconceived vision of him. President Trump as a campaigner is very...
CNN called them faking the polls recently, too, and farming which ones... people they think would vote a certain way. So, because not only is it like, well, Biden's beating all the other Democrats, that's true, and he may even be a little bit close to Trump, and that's true. But they were saying, well, he's going to beat him out, and it's like, okay, whatever. And then you look at it, and you're like, fine. And then you look down, and it's like, and then if it's not Biden, it'll be Kamala Harris, and then it'll be Elizabeth Warren, and then it'll be Cory Booker, and they're all fucking beating Trump. It's like, no. Like, Biden's the best of the worst. You know what I mean? They're not going to all beat Trump because Biden's struggling to beat Trump. And if they're going to push Biden, they must not give a shit, or they're going to legalize pedophilia or something before the election. Because there's no way he comes to the table without that being brought up. If I was Trump's team, it'd be foolish and remiss to not do it.
Very good at dragging unknowns through the mud, or at exposing details about people that are previously sort of covered up. But when it comes to Joe Biden, he's been well exposed for a very long time. Most people know him, and he's not nearly as unpopular even going in as Hillary Clinton was in 2016.
So
that's all true, but like what he's talking about with the C-SPAN, there's a lot of people that don't know that and willfully will not look at it.
if it was a close race between Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, you would, from what you say, I think, probably go for Mr. Trump.
Yes, I would vote for Mr. Trump if it were a race between Biden and Trump, because I think that the damage that President Trump has done to the country on a character and rhetorical level has already been done and cannot be undone. I don't see it as getting worse day by day. That is the new status quo, unfortunately. Now the question becomes which policies I would most like to see enacted, and Trump's policy preferences are closer to my own than Joe Biden's are.
So you couldn't just say, yeah, Trump's, in that case, Trump, you got me. Trump's a little closer to me. He had to put it in there and say, well, now, yeah, I can vote for Trump. Did I just say that? That's a bad soundbite. I mean, well, now that it doesn't fucking matter. I mean, I used to be about conserving, treating each other with respect, and politics being about loving each other, like it's ever been, you stupid idiot. I mean, damn, what type of echo chamber bubble have you been in, you posh schoolboy, all of your life, to think that politics isn't about backstabbing and talking shit and holding your own? You're nuts, dude. But he had to throw that shit in there, like, all civil discourses. It's just in the shit because Trump. So it's been like that. We've been accelerating, so to speak, in the being pushed apart, and you could have shit about social media. He had that talk or debate or clash with Tucker about automation. See, he doesn't get a lot of that stuff is demoralizing society too. It's not just, oh, well, Trump came in. We just never had a president like this. Yes, we have. We had LBJ who said, he talked about people and said, we'll have them niggers voting Democrat for 60 years or whatever. And Clinton, about Obama, we'd have this boy a few years ago fetching us coffee and all sorts of shit. So, and Dennis Hastert, a piece of shit who was the Speaker of the House as a Republican, got caught as a pedophilic guy, and he was in prison. He was put in prison. And so a pedophile is not as bad as calling somebody, Sloppy Joe or something, Ben. Give me a break with the damn discourse shit.
Now, you're a star of new media, of conservative new media. You and others on the left.
So I wonder if Ben would blame Trump, for making Andrew Neil use terms like barbaric to describe abortion, because people have always been like that are against abortion. And for the most part, I know he's more socially liberal to me, and Ben always has to go, well, Trump may be doing good things for pro-life movement, but let's never forget that he's probably paid for a handful of abortions. It's like, Ben, can you just, please, Ben, shut the fuck up.
Left and the right, you position yourselves as supposed tellers of hard truths. But haven't you all
What hard truth?
just really coarsened public discourse in America and exacerbated its divisions?
You know, it's kind of odd to be hearing about me coarsening public discourse when you call policies you disagree with brutal and bringing us back to the Dark Ages, sir.
The point
That's
I
not
don't
an
return
answer.
to, but the point was to put a position for you to reply to it. And I thought we covered that.
That's
so embarrassing, though. And people say Ben was like in the right here. It's like, I appreciate him fighting, for what he believes in. That's our respect, so to speak. But the thing is, it's optics. It doesn't matter if he was slighted or not. Yeah. It's just not gonna look good.
I think,
especially for somebody like him who cares about looking good.
Your characterization of issues is part of the problem in the coarsening of public debate.
Well, maybe it's also part of your problem too, because we have from your YouTube videos, Ben Shapiro destroys the abortion argument. Ben Shapiro.
See, he's smiling. I know he's not smiling because he thinks it's exaggerated. People could talk shit. The only reason I say this, I think everybody has an ego that you can use. Like Scott Adams says, you can use it, and it's a meter based off what you want to do in life. You can hype yourself up, and to me, that's an ego. You can use it to your advantage. But someone like Ben Shapiro, look, he's the one who says ego's bad, and Trump has an ego, and that's his problem. Watch the way he smiles, and it's not just like a destroys. It's not like a abortion blown the fuck out, and he's like, he heard his name.
Policies you disagree with brutal and bringing us back to the Dark Ages, sir.
The point I don't want to return to
is part of the problem in the coarsening of public debate.
Well, maybe it's also part of your problem too, because we have from your YouTube videos, Ben Shapiro destroys the abortion argument. Ben Shapiro destroys transgenderism and abortion. Is that not a kind of coarse public discourse?
Well, are those videos labeled by me?
See, he's got a point here. That's fair because there's highlight clips. Like I said, I'm gonna, once I name people in videos, I'll keep going back to them. Owen Benjamin highlight clips, Ben Shapiro highlight clips, Steve Crowder, whatever, whoever you listen to, the Ralph Retort, funniest moments, even shit like that. From soft right to far right to hard right, all this shit. And all people. John Oliver destroys like. I guess I'm with Ben on the sense that, but the thing is, you haven't seen John Oliver on this with Andrew Neil, so you can't say that he hadn't done it. He wouldn't be that way. But I'm sure it's okay when they do it. But the thing is, I don't know. Remember how he answers this with me? I would say, you may not know this, but I wouldn't be like you're an old man that nobody knows approach that Ben does. It just makes you look like a dick. I'd say, well, I understand that the word destroy. It sounds bad, but this has been appropriated by a culture that's coming up, especially where when someone gets dunked on in basketball, someone gets destroyed. Someone falls, to keep on the basketball analogy, someone trips over themselves because you juke them, with the ball and or cross them, and you quote unquote break their legs. You're not literally breaking their legs, and so you're saying that you should break people's legs on the court? That sounds barbaric and violent. I would say that it's a term of phrase, destroy, and but to be fair, Ben, there is stuff on Ben's personal and Daily Wire videos to where it's like Ben Shapiro gives electric speech, and I know that's like him pumping himself up, and it's more positive than it is like, destroys, whatever. But it's still lame, so there's a point to that. So he can't pretend that he doesn't word shit like that.
I have no idea. But
why are you picking out? Why are you? I have a question. Why are you picking out random YouTube videos put up by people who are not me?
Are you
and then attributing the titles to me?
Are you unhappy with the way they've been described?
I think that people can describe me however they please. It's a free country, and I'm all in favor of a public debate. If you watch the actual clips, they are generally civil conversations between me and somebody who disagrees with me.
You say in your new book, you suggest that America's largest struggle at the moment is, quote, the struggle for our national soul. We are so angry at each other right now. And I think that's true. I've just returned from the United States. But aren't you part of the problem with the way you go about your discourse, not the solution?
And I think we can all do better in our discourse, but the fact that I've reached out to so many people across the aisle to have conversations with them is pretty evident. The fact that I was willing to walk from a publication that was paying me money over principle is pretty evident.
Ben.
The fact that I've called out
Michelle
President Trump,
Fields,
a member of a party of which I am a member, repeatedly when I think that he has done things that are immoral.
What I think's funny is, remember Ben forever not wanting to let go of it, like a lot of people on the left don't want to let go of quote-unquote liberalism. The party, Andrew was right. He like hit him with a hard right, pun intended, hook. Not him right, but a question for Ben that said, hasn't Trump, whether he wants to say hijacked or appropriated the party, he's the party head now. Republicans, he's leading the way. He is leading the way. People like Ben have allowed someone to come in and fill the vacuum because they were just all talking. Let's sit on our hands. We'll sit on our principles and just get screwed over. What has been conserved?
I think is decent evidence that I'm looking at.
But I just thought it was funny because remember, Trump's not a real Republican. And I get that it's like, well, he says, well, he won the party or whatever. He was still fighting him up until Election Day. And when Cruz came out and said, vote your conscience, vote whatever, which is fine, but he led stuff up to talk about one person, which was going to be Trump, and then just like yeeted on everyone and said, psych, vote your conscience. And Ben was probably there going, yeah, yeah, jerking it, Yeah, principles. Let's lose and keep our principles. And it's not like we have to, quote unquote, I'm not even going to say it, but quote unquote, do bad things to people to get our way. It's just that we've got to like verbally push back on people, use unconventional things that we hadn't done before to get attention, like what Trump does. And it's working, and he wants to say, well, can't really do that. We don't want to slide and get the soccer ball out from someone's dribble down the field because we might dirty our jerseys up. Come on, Ben. There's people out there that want to kill you on the left, and they've said it, and you're like, well, if I could just have a conversation with these people. You need to call them out, Ben. You need to call them monsters, animals, whatever you want to, but this whole civil discourse, because see, you saying civil discourse has gotten you in this situation where he's nailing you to the wall on it.
At least for a civil conversation.
Well, as you say in your book, you say that there's quite a key phrase, we are so angry at each other right now. But as I say, aren't you part of that anger? Aren't you encouraging that anger? For example, you described Mr. Obama's State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist mentality in action.
Well, I think that if you want to argue with the characterization, then we can talk about what exactly his State of the Union address said. Is it charged language in politics? Sure. The problem that I have is not with charged language in politics, which I'm generally in favor of. I like a robust public debate and a very loud and spirited public debate. I have no problem with that whatsoever. What I'm talking about is the assumption that people with whom we disagree politically are inherently of bad character or, in your words, want to bring us back to the Dark Ages.
See, there he is again. That's like the third or fourth time.
Of the State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist.
He brought that up.
The wording of President...
All you ladies out there, quote unquote, forgive me in advance, but it's like when you have a girlfriend or something, and she's like, no, I'm fine, everything's fine. You're like, I know it's not. She'll keep bringing something up, like if you forgot to get her medicine or something at CVS, and later on you're like, honey, where's the forks? She'll say, well, I can't remember where I put them. I washed them, but I can't remember where I put them. Maybe it would help me if I had my medicine, and everything will be, or, you say, have you got food ready yet? And she'll say, well, I would have already cooked because if I had my medicine, I would have food ready because I would need to have food so I could eat food before I took my medicine and have a full stomach. But there's no reason to cook since you forgot my pills. Everything could be related back to it. That's what Ben keeps doing. Everything goes back to that damn barbaric. He thinks it's funny as shit.
Address was bad and wrong.
That's all. There are plenty of things that are bad and wrong, but it doesn't make them fascist.
Well, I suppose that's true. But if you would like to, again,
watch out. This is just like a personal thing. But just watch how hard it is for him to say, okay, whatever.
The wording of President Trump's 2012 address was bad and wrong.
That's all. There are plenty of things that are bad and wrong.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Did he say Trump? Let's see.
Again, it was your description of the State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist.
The wording of President Trump's 2012 address was bad and wrong.
That's all. There are plenty of things that
Did you hear that 2012 address?
Fascist.
Everybody heard that. That was a mess up. And Andrew didn't even catch it.
I suppose that's true, but if you...
Trump, of course, wasn't president in 2012. It was Obama. And I'm not going to sit here and say, Ben, get blown the fuck out. You're an idiot. You can't even remember. I understand that things mess up. Sometimes I'll look at my own stuff here when I'm reviewing it, and I'll notice that I messed the name up or something like that, and people will say, well, get your story together. And I'm like, I'm not going to script it, okay? But I'm not going to attack him for that. I just thought it was funny that nobody caught that. And I just now caught that.
Would like to, again, if you'd like to read me the column out loud, I suppose I can critique it for you.
And at least if Andrew knew what was going on, maybe anyone to be a dick, maybe he could go, Trump wasn't president in 2012. He could have murked him, somewhat petty thing.
For you.
Oh, well, again, with Mr. Obama, you said, and you're Jewish yourself. I only mention that because to put this in context.
He's Jewish.
The Jews who vote for Obama are, by and large, Jews in name only. Ginos, you call them.
Oh, shit.
My statement was based on the fact that Jews in the United States, as an ethnic group, are largely irreligious, which is true by every single poll. Jews are the most irreligious group in the United States. As an Orthodox Jew who actually takes Judaism seriously, the point that I am making is that most Jews who are ethnically Jewish are not religiously Jewish in any context.
No. The point you were making is that Jews who vote for Obama are Jews in name only.
I said that, yes, that is correct, that Jews who voted for Barack Obama, a progenitor of the Iran deal, a person who was cracking down on religious liberty, a person who spent much of his career as president of the United States attempting to deprive Israel of the necessities to defend itself, Jews who voted for President Obama, by and large, cared about Judaism far less than they did about other priorities.
Did you say they should turn their badge in as a Jew?
Jew badge.
Yes, I believe that if you are somebody who takes Judaism seriously, that comes along with ideological commitment.
I mean, I guess.
Also, I hope you're having fun, by the way, going through every old tweet that I've ever sent to try and do gotcha questions. But if you'd like to have a discussion about my general philosophy or things I've done in, say, I don't know, that was 2012, so it's now 2019. If you'd like to discuss something I've done in, say, like the past 5 years, why don't we do that?
He has tried to do. I get what he's trying to say, but he has tried to do that. He did that in the very beginning when he said something about what is the Republican Party seem to be pushing right now. He said, has the battle been won on a lot of fronts? He could have went into we just got through talking about abortion, Andrew. We're trying to make headway there and blah, 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 blah. And apparently we are, because you're saying there's laws being passed that are barbaric. They're going to be barbaric to people who've had abortion on demand for a certain amount of years, right? But he didn't want to go through that. He just said, well, Trump doesn't really control the Republican Party, and there's always nice conversations that are intermingling, but he never gave any, so he really doesn't care, I don't think. He thinks he's just pulling that out of his ass to make him stop. Like, if you want to talk about something else, like...
How about that?
Because your book is a criticism
if you want to compliment
of
me, you can
how
go ahead,
angry
but
America is and how America has to do better. And I'm simply
I have an entire list on my website, sir. On my list, I have an entire website of dumb, bad things that I've said.
I'm simply trying to point out some of the things you've said that seem to me to help to stoke that anger. For example, you said Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
Well, as I say in an article entitled, here's a list of all the giant, bad, dumb things I've ever said.
Was that dumb?
Well, yes, that's a dumb tweet. And not only, but it is also important to mention that...
He says, I think Owen pointed this out too, he said that was a dumb tweet. Like, in a sense, he's not taking credit for it. He didn't say I shouldn't have said that. That was dumb of me to say. Ben's real slick with it, but that's the ego that's consuming him. That's why I think it's so funny to nail him on it, because he's like all the time about what disqualifies Trump is his ego, what qualifies whatever. And when people say Ben Shapiro for president, he's like, oh shucks, guys, here he is losing his fucking mind. You know what I mean? Talk about temperament.
The next few tweets clarify that tweet is specifically referring to the Hamas leadership, which, by the way, a BBC I've seen is relatively reticent to condemn.
No, actually, it wasn't what you went on to do and say. You are correct about the slur on Arabs. It's not all Arabs that want to live in open sewage and blow things up. It's just Palestinians, you went on to say.
No, it says the ones who take sides against Israel in the Israel-Palestinian
Arab population is rotten to the core, you went on to say. Not Hamas, the Palestinian Arab population.
I say that by poll numbers, they elected Hamas. They elected Hamas. They educate their children in school that Israel should be obliterated.
Children's?
I guess.
If you want to read, honestly, this is a giant waste of time. in the sense that the entire interview is designed for you to shout slogans or old things that I've said at me. I don't see how this forwards the debate. You talk about undermining the public discourse. It seems to me that
He's
simply
about to
going
destroy
through
him.
and finding lone things that sound bad out of context and then hitting people with them is a way for you to make a quick buck on BBC off the fact that I'm popular and no one has ever heard of you.
There are not many bucks to be made on the BBC,
That's so
unlike
shitty.
American broadcasting, Mr. Shapiro.
Can you ever say that without looking like a pussy? No one even knows you. Or even shit like, you know, when people say, you do realize, instead of saying no, but you know, there's whatever, right? You know that, like with the shit with abortion, you know, Roe v. Wade getting canceled doesn't mean abortion's illegal. It just takes it back to the states, you know? That's different than, you do realize that abortion, blah, blah, blah. No matter what side you're on, you do realize. That's what he's in the vein of that, doing that type of stuff when he says, and no one's ever even heard of you. You know, Ben, I guess Ben says no one has ever heard of this guy, and I hadn't, to be fair, but there's a lot of people who have. I don't set the standard for who people should know in the world. So he said, semantically, this is what this sounds like. He said, nobody has ever heard of you. If he hasn't heard of Andrew Neil, and he's in politics, Ben, then by default, he said, nobody has even heard of you. Ben is somebody who had never heard of him. That makes him the nobody. I just thought that was funny. I mean, that's one of the things where I dive into, like, wow, that's weird, you know, like the etherealness of, like, the statements and how they coincide, but nobody's ever heard of you, and Ben said he's never heard of him, and so Ben is a nobody.
The point I'm trying to make is that your words are highly
hated.
designed to produce the consensus and understanding that the book seems to want to produce. That's my
he's
point. That you
sanctimonious.
write about
He's got a point.
Judeo-Christian culture.
I hate every time I hear Judeo-Christian culture, I laugh my ass off. Judeo and Christian couldn't be further from the truth. Look at me and look at Ben, the way we look at the world. Look at the way we look at Jesus Christ. Ben is the type of person that's like, well, he's like, well, and he would do this with people. If people came to people's doors, busted them down to get guns, I promise you he'd eventually, you know, treat everything like this. He would sit from the sidelines like he does about the Christ thing and go, well, I mean, he was killed, but technically under Roman law at the time, you know, you got to respect the state's law. Even though faith is more important than anything to me. Jesus kind of was like a criminal under, and possibly even a terrorist under their standards. It's like, Ben, you fucking snake boy.
And so on. But so much of what you've said in the past would seem to turn its back on Judeo-Christian culture.
And like you said, most Jews are
You're
atheistic.
lecturing me on
and
Judeo-Christian
liberals.
culture after you call the pro-life position barbaric?
5
I
times.
just
Really?
asked you a question.
5 times.
And I
Really,
asked you a
dude?
question. You failed to answer a single one of mine.
He's not the
Frankly, I find
interviewer.
this whole thing a waste of time. If you want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read and critique the book?
Is he
If
here
you want
for
to
a
read,
book?
if you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you just
frankly,
try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't frankly
questions?
give a damn what you think of
Oh,
me since I've never heard of
damn.
you.
And I've never
He
heard
says
of you
damn.
until I briefed myself for this. But that's not the issue. You haven't
he's
worked
never-
Why the hell are you
out, and
interviewing
it's
me,
it's an interesting.
He's never heard of him. He's got his number. He's got Ben's number. See, Ben should have done his fucking homework. Look, this is a smug face. This still frame, I didn't mean to do it, but this is a mix between I'm smug down here and damn, I'm losing it in my eyes. Like I'm about to cry. What's funny is he said, nobody's ever heard of you. And he said, well, I hadn't really heard of you. And he's being honest. And Ben's taking it like, because Ben's in dick measure mode. He's thinking that he is too. He's rejecting himself on him. And so he's like, and I've never heard of you. And he's being honest. And Ben's thinking, oh, you're just trying to say that because I said that. Meh. And then why the hell are you interviewing me? It's like, Ben, I've seen people on Ben's show he's never met. This is the first time on the show. From now on, people need to start calling in when he has new guests saying, Ben, if you've never had him on the show and you didn't know who he was until just, you know, this week before he got scheduled on your show, then why the hell are you interviewing him? See, it just sounds so damn dumb.
Interesting book. But my point is, your book
It's getting
claims
really
Well, it'd
bad.
be nice if you would
society.
quote it from time to time.
Your book is, well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book
frankly, I don't
claims
think
that
this- you know what?
society
Honestly-
is turning
honestly,
its
sir.
back on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah, this
What are
considering
those values?
considering
what are the values it's turning its back on?
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse now. Mr.
Damn, he
Shapiro, we'll
backslapped
say
him on the
goodbye.
way out. You hear that? Thank you for showing that anger's no longer a part of something politics, right? He kind of got blown the fuck out on the way out the door. You guys let me know what you think. It's been about an hour. Now, it just now turned about an hour. I'm running my mouth. Follow me on the shit, you know what I mean? This is just face cam. Blah, 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 blah. Title. My tags. Political Dank House. Instagram. See? Twitter. Aaron Humperdinck. It's me on Twitter. That's my personal down at the bottom left. And then I got the One Man Carnival, but I don't use it. It's just in case we get fucked up on Twitter for saying what's true. Political Dank House. You guys keep hopping to it. Have a great weekend. I'm going to try to bang out a lot of these videos. Peace.